Hello everyone, welcome to today's session. In the last class, I have discussed about JavaScript objects. So today we will have a look on JavaScript events. Yes, JavaScript events. So what is this JavaScript events? So JavaScript event is an action that are detected by a JavaScript. So events are an action that are detected by JavaScript. Yes. So JavaScript events allow the programmer to react to user interaction. JavaScript events allow the programmer to react to user interactions. How actually the user interactions are done? So that you will get to know in detail in JavaScript events. Okay. So firstly, in earlier days of web development, we can notice that HTML code and a JavaScript code are woven together. How means, for example, take div element id is a property or an attribute where id is example, okay, and on click equals when you click on it calls alert and prints some message good morning, okay. So close div element, okay, then give some label try it and also close div. So this is an example where JavaScript code and JavaScript code and HTML code are woven together, in the sense where they are combined together. See, this is HTML code and this is JavaScript code. So both are woven together. So for this we call it as inline event handler approach. Okay. So what do we call this? Inline event handler approach. When you make use of an inline event handler approach, it reduces the ability of a designer to work separately from programmers, and also it makes complication to design or to maintain a web application. Why? Again I will repeat, when you weave HTML code and an JavaScript together means it makes complication, it reduces the design of an web application, also complicates the maintenance of the web application. So this is what the drawback we face when we make use of an inline event handler approach. Okay. So we already discussed about JavaScript design principles of layers, where using those layers we can have increased maintainability and simplifying markup language. When we make use of an inline event handler approach, we are having certain complications. So these drawbacks can be reduced or resolved using two approaches. One approach is that For example, I am taking one example on that, that is where greeting equals document dot get element by ID. Okay, so ID I am passing as element. Okay, so then greeting dot click on click equals alert good morning. So semicolon is optional, but it is permitted. So not to worry about syntax. So let us start a discussion on which are all the two approaches used to resolve the problem of inline event handler approach. So this is one older approach which is supported by all the types of browser. How it is going to work? See here, this is a HTML element. Through this JavaScript property, we access the element and it has been stored in a temporary variable. Through this temporary variable, we are calling an event handler, that is on click. So on click is an event handler which performs certain event. Okay, so when you click on the event, what happens? It alerts the message saying that good morning. Okay, so in this first approach also there is one limitation, that is only one handler should respond to all other elements. So this is one limitation. So we will move on to a second approach. The second approach is about where it has many advantages and also it has a multiple handlers to handle different objects. So what is that? Let us take up an example where same example in second approach I am going to illustrate, that is where greeting equals document dot get element by ID, that is ID is C. I took example here as an ID, so please change here also example. Okay, example. Now, how to handle means greeting dot add event listener. So this is a listener approach used to handle the events. Okay, add event listener. There, which event? Click event. What you want to execute? Alert saying good morning. Okay, so you can add multiple handlers, that is add event listener. So one more event, that is mouse out. So one mouse out, in the by that time it should alert good afternoon. So this is a second approach where it consists of multiple handlers to handle different objects. Okay, so this is one example where we have dealt with mouse events. We can consider one more example with respect to date. So before taking one more example, again I will summarize the concept of JavaScript events. JavaScript events are an action that are detected by a JavaScript. Okay, it is an action. action is going to perform, some operation, which allows the programmer to react to user interactions. In the sense, click, user is going to click. So that is one interaction between the application and the end user. Okay, that is what JavaScript event. So this JavaScript event, how in earlier days they were developed means JavaScript code as well as HTML code both are woven together, in the sense combined together. That approach we call it as inline event handler approach. When we make use of this approach, there will be certain complication in order to maintain the web application. Okay, and already we have got to know that there are several JavaScript design principles in terms of layers which increase the maintainability and also the reusability of the code. But in case of inline event handler approach, we are facing the complications. Hence, to overcome these drawbacks, there are two approaches. So the first approach where we can use in this way, in this approach also we have a limitation. There is only one handler to respond to different elements. So second approach is having many advantages. It consists of multiple handlers which deals with different objects. Let us take a second example, that is where, okay, so D equals document dot get element by ID. ID I am passing is example. Then D dot add event listener. So when you click, it should call a function display the date. It should call a function display the date. Okay. So this is how we can code a program to illustrate, to display the current date. Next, display the date is a function. We need to define that function. How to define? Function keyword. Okay, then what is the function name? Display the date. So here I have to take one variable where variable name is D equals new date. So date is an object to create a date. Then to print I have to use document dot write. Okay, so then any message which you wish to print it on the screen, that is today is, I can give in this way, plus D is where the date has been calculated to string. So then close the function. So this is one example where we are using a multiple handler to handle with different objects. Okay, the same one can be used in another approach. How means, I will change it and show how means. In this way, I will change, see, D on click equals, it calls this function. Another approach. So both results in same output. What was the difference you noticed? There we have used an handler. Here we are giving an event. Okay, so this is an example where to illustrate the concept of listener approach, that is by using handler and by using event objects. Event objects. So, we don't know which type of event we encounter. So, all are considered as an DOM event object, that is document object model event objects, and event handlers associated with them can access and modify them. Okay, event handlers associated with them can access event handler associated with them can access and modify them. So, how events can be passed as an argument to a function means, I will give one syntax. Function is a keyword to define a function. Function name is some handler, and it takes, see, you have passed event as an argument to a function. So, event is represented by E. Okay. There are, again I will repeat, event objects in the sense, no matter which type of events we encounter, all are considered as a DOM event objects, and event handlers associated with them can be accessed and also modified. So, we can pass events to a function by giving E as an argument to a function. This is one. This is the syntax to pass event as an argument to a function. So, there are many properties and methods which can be used for handling the events. Some of them are in use and some of them are not in use. So, still we are supposed to discuss on those properties. First one is that bubbles. Second one, cancelable. And the third one, prevent default. Okay, so there are three properties: bubbles, cancelable, and prevent default. So first we will start with the bubbles. So the bubble property is a Boolean value in the terms of true and false. Okay, if a bubble property is set to true means, then there must be an event handler in place to handle the event. Okay, if an event if it doesn't have an event handler to handle the event means, then it bubbles up to its parent and triggers an event handler. For example, I will say this is document root, okay, which has body. Inside the body I have div. Div has two child P. Okay, so now assume I am setting the event handler for P. Okay, but okay, so consider this example, okay, where P is not set with event handler, okay, but it has a bubbles property which is set to true. Okay, so whenever a bubbles property is set to true, it should have a event handler in place to handle the event. Okay, if it is not having an event handler means it bubbles up to its parent to trigger an event handler. Okay, so P doesn't have an event handler, so the message bubbles up to its parent. Okay, assume this parent is not having a event handler, then it continues to bubbles up to its document root. okay, since it has been unhandled. So, this is what bubbles property. So, next is about cancelable. So, this cancelable property is also a Boolean value. Okay. So, it indicates whether or not the event can be cancelable. In the sense, it is going to indicate whether or not the event can be cancelled. Okay. If the event is cancelable, then the default action associated with this event also gets cancelled. Okay. In the sense, assume this, take this div element. Okay. For this, I have set the property cancelable. Okay. You are going to cancel this event means the default actions associated with this also gets cancelled. This is what cancelable property. So, next is about prevent default. So, cancelable prevent default action can be stopped using this prevent default. So, I will write one syntax so that you can understand. What is that? I will write here only. See, assume you have a function to handle the event. So, you will check for cancelable property. So, cancelable property, what it does? It indicates whether or not the event can be cancelled. Okay. So, if you have set to cancel the event means the default action associated with this also get cancelled. Okay. If you set prevent default means even though you are going to cancel this event, the actions associated with this event will not be cancelled since the prevent default has been set to true. Okay. So, this is what prevent default. We will have a look on event types. Okay. There are different classes of events like mouse events, then keyboard events, form events, last one frame events. So, we will start with mouse events. What is mouse events? Which are defined to capture a range of interactions driven by the mouse. Okay. So, which are all the events which can be done through a mouse? I have listed here. On click, in the sense you are performing click event. The mouse was clicked on an element. On DB click, the mouse was double clicked on the event, on an element. On mouse down, the mouse was pressed down over an element. On mouse up, the mouse was released over an element. On mouse over, the mouse was moved over an element. On mouse out, the mouse was moved off of an element. On mouse move, the mouse was moved while over an element. So, these are all the events which can be performed using mouse event. Okay. So, let us take up an example by making use of this mouse events. So, let us take up one example on this HTML body, there button ID equals first, try it. is the label, close button. Now we will take one P element with ID demo. It has no content. Finally close this P. Next, open the script. There let us take up one variable. Okay, that is variable name I am taking it as X equals, call the property get element by ID. How you call? Document dot get element by ID. Then which one you have to pass? ID as first. Okay. So then use handlers, multiple handlers. How to use? X dot add event handler. No, event listener. Yes, it is event listener. So when you click, this is mouse event, right? Click. What it should do? It should call a function 1. Okay. X dot add event listener. When mouse over, it should call function 2. Add event listener. When mouse out, it should call function 3. Okay. So here in this example, I have used multiple handlers to work with different mouse events. If I perform click operation, function 1 gets called, mouse over means function 2 gets called, mouse out means function 3 gets called. Now I have to write a definition for each of the functions. Here I am going to write how to begin. Function is the keyword to define a function. What is the function name? 1. Okay. So what I have to do? Document dot get element by ID. Inside that I am passing this ID which is empty. Okay, demo. To that I am reading the input, that is inner HTML. This is shorthand operator. What it does? It prints a message, that is clicked, then break. You have to close double quotes here. Okay. So this is a definition for function 1. So what is the event? Click, right? So whenever you click on that, you will get a message clicked. So once if I run this program, you can observe the output. Once if I click, it is printing clicked. Okay. In the same way, I have to write 2 more definitions for function 2 and function 3. Since I don't have space, what I am going to do means I will just replace this as function 2. So what it should do? Function 2 is mouse over, right? So it should print mouse overed. So whenever the mouse, so mouse over means what action? The mouse was moved over an element. It was moved over an element. By that time it will print mouse over. So you can notice that output now. Also for function 3, in this way. What is that activity? Mouse out. Moused out. So what is mouse out describes for? The mouse was moved off of an element. When the mouse was moved off, mouse out will be done. Okay, so moused out output will be printed on the screen. So this is one simple example where we are making use of the mouse events. Example to illustrate mouse event, that is HTML, then body, then script, that is PID equals first we have on mouse up. By that time it calls one function F1, then on mouse down, it calls another function, function 2. Okay. After that it prints a message hello. So we have to define a separate function for this. So how do you define? And script should begin from here. Okay, this is script. Okay, so then how to define function? What is the function name? Function 1. What should it do? Document dot get element by ID. Which ID? First. What it should do? It should style it. So use style. Which style you want? You want to set it to background color. So give background color equals which color you wish. You can assign. I am giving it as pink. Okay, this is about function 1. So I will write function 2 here. Function 2. So that is, see, function 1 where it is about on mouse up. So when on mouse up event is activated, it should change the background color to pink. When on mouse down event is activated, handled, function 2 what it should do? In order to reflect those two events, we are changing the background color by different colors. Okay, function 2. So same thing again, document dot get element by ID first. Okay, then style background color equals, I am setting it to green. Okay, so after running the program, you can observe the output, that is when on mouse up event is activated, handled, it prints the background color in pink color. When on mouse down event is handled, it prints the background color in green color. You can observe the output. So next is about keyboard events. So what is keyboard events which are useful within input fields? So we will take up an example on this so that you will have a clear picture about this keyboard events. So there are certain keyboard events I have listed here. On key down. Okay, the user is pressing a key. If If you are pressing on some key means that event we call it as on key down. On key press, the user presses a key, it is present, presses a key. Okay. On key up, the user releases a key that was down, in the sense you are releasing a key. Okay. So, let us take an example on this. Okay. So, begin with HTML, then body, then I told keyboard events are useful within input fields. So, take a tag input, then input type, which type you want, text type, and ID, I am taking it as I am taking it as demo. Then events, for example, on mouse down, in the sense if you press a key, when you press a key it should call function 1. On mouse up, in the sense you are releasing a key, by that time it should call a function 2. Okay. So, finally close input type. Now, open the script, there you have to define a function. Okay. How to define a function? Use the function keyword. Function is 1. So, what it should do? On mouse down, it presses a key. When we press a key, I am going to change the background color with pink. When you release a key, the background color should change to green. Likewise, with any colors we can deal. So, to do that I have to get that ID. So, to do document dot get element by ID. So, pass which ID? Demo, and style it. How do you style? Call style. Then what do you want to change? Background color. Which color you want to set? Set it. So, this is about function 1. Next is about function 2, F2. Here on mouse up, that is releasing a key. So, document dot get element by ID demo dot style background color, change it to red. So, what happens once you run this program? You can observe the output. There is a text field where you can enter the text. So, once if I press the key, the background color changes to pink, since on mouse down function is defined to print the background color in pink. If I release a key, on mouse up gets called and it changes the background color to red. Okay. You can observe the output. Thank you all. So, still few more topics are remaining, that is about form events, frame events, and also about form validation. We will continue in the next session. Thank you.